Hey, before we get right to the main event of replying to old comments, I just want to do a quick memoriam for the whole 6-7 craze. Had its 15 minutes and now it's in the rearview mirror. Didn't really resonate with me and I didn't really care to understand it, with the exception of one clip. One clip had me completely understanding why this was being done without ever knowing the origin or what the kids really meant, what their motivation was. It was this news clip where the woman reporter was covering the a sports game, and behind her all these young guys were doing the hype up 6-7 6-7, and the first impression was, okay, that's the annoying new craze, whatever. I didn't really care. And at a certain point, one of these young men is just staring off like into the distance with like a pinched, pained look on his face. And he's not saying it with the typical style of like, yeah, we're getting attention, we're doing something that no one else knows about, yeah. He's doing it like he's almost wailing. He's like, 6-7. He kind of sounds like a drunk who's out in the street at night, like crying out to a lost loved one. He's like, 6-7. And as he's doing that way, the other guys around him are kind of starting to like look at him and move away from him. Like, I think one of them even said, dude, you're not even drunk, bro. Because that's how he's acting. He's acting like a drunk in mourning. But he's just saying 6-7. So why is he saying it? Why is he saying it that way? He's not just doing the typical hype up. What's going on? Like, what's this guy's motivation? This is different than all the other ones. 6-7. And how I finally came to understand it was I realized I would have been that guy. I was that guy. Back, my 6-7 was, remember that episode of Seinfeld where Kramer saw Joe DiMaggio in the donut shop? And instead of just calling out his name, he started slamming on the table and yipping, yip, yip, yip. Why didn't you just call out his name? So I did that in a restaurant to get the waiter's attention to, bring us a refill or whatever. And I didn't get the laughs that Kramer got. I probably just got spit in my food. But I understand now. It was wailing. It is wailing. It's wailing out for somebody to hear and to come into your life and fill in that missing cavity in your soul. And like Rocky said, fills gaps. So hopefully that 6-7 guy fills those gaps. Hopefully his wail caught the attention of what he was after. But anyway, we left off replying to the comment section of his master plan revealed, part 11. The next comment was from 38 Maddie, who said, I was thinking of NK and what the conversation would have been like between CW and NK to plan murders. Quote, okay, I'll load the bodies in GPS truck, go to work place and dump them there. You stay and get rid of purse, phone, etc. in Lexus with a dark wig on, unquote. Yeah, it sounds pretty silly when you put it that way, 38 Maddie. And then 38 Maddie wraps it up by saying, just because NK was a creepy, weird chick doesn't mean she is a serial killer. And then some weird J, 10 slashes, JIE. Excuse me. Still sick. It was a few weeks ago. I said I've been sick for weeks and still sick. Maybe I should go to urgent care. just because of that one dude in OJ case can be racist and OJ did it. And someone replied to that. Man, excuse me. You know, I thought about doing my first ever edit there and I resisted. So if anyone's still listening at the 5:19 mark, you're just going to have to deal with the fact that I just snorted a loogie into the back of my throat and swallowed it. All 40 of you. But yeah, those are good points, 38 Maddie. It's for the people who like put the mistress NK in the role of accomplice, like she was physically involved in the crime that CW committed. I think all that stuff could happen. It just doesn't line up with their personalities. And 38 Maddie has another comment after that that kind of sums up why I think so too. Only not exactly. 38 Maddie said, NK wasn't as stupid or as in love as CW. I don't think CW was in love, and I think NK was as stupid. Well, no, she was. No, that part's true. I don't think CW has the capacity for love. It was just whatever was going to satisfy his temporary impulses, you know. And, you know, the satisfaction of a new love because he doesn't have the capacity to feel love, which is like a long-term, you know, a long-term good feeling for somebody, even in times of badness. Like there's that through line of love. Like even as the relationship's going up and down, you still have that through line of we love each other. But since Chris doesn't have that love, it's like in the beginning with Shanann, it's great, yay. Oh, now we have kids and we're working and we're busy all the time. It's not great anymore. There was no love there to keep it up here. So, oh, here's this new love, NK, the mistress. This is better. I love her now. So, I don't think he was in love, but NK definitely was not as stupid as CW, as 38 Maddie said, because she did not cultivate the plan that Chris did, nor lift a finger to carry it out. And she, well, never admitted to anything. I would say she was, like, I do agree with people that she was being very evasive, which is why I keep saying she's a very rotten person based on her, what's available to the public about her, the police interviews and the text messages and stuff and the emails that she wouldn't reveal to the police that were found out later. Thanks for the comments, 38 Maddie. Up next was, wow, a lot of letters in the world, a lot of letters all crammed together. GFYSBBTDUB both disgusting 88. Who said, I don't think anyone would unsubscribe to your channel because they don't agree with your take on what happened. I think it's normal, especially in these types of cases, to disagree and then present your thoughts and opinions. Because I think in this video that this person is commenting to, I said, well, I guess this is where I lose about half my audience because I was going to take one side of this debate that people seem to be the most passionate about is whether or not the mistress was directly involved in CW's crimes. Because she definitely influenced him, and I would even go as far as saying she knowingly influenced him. But I wouldn't say she was directly involved in any way, never having said a straight word about it or like lifting one finger to help. And I thought that would turn off a lot of, I mean, some people did disagree, but as this comment continues, I would welcome and respect those opinions. That's very good. Even if they were different from mine, that's how you communicate properly in a civil society. Because look at what you have here. A guy who lies about every little thing, changes his story, depending on who he is talking to the point that he's constantly contradicting himself. reading it as it's written. No one will ever know the whole truth with this case. I may not agree with your take on NK, but I always hear what you have to say and respect your opinion because you have come up with many great points that I didn't even consider. Well, I appreciate that, just like I would respect anyone's opinion who thinks that the mistress was directly involved. It's just none of them have convinced me yet. You look at his personality and analyze what likely happened. Others may just base their opinion on the knowns and not try to pick apart what kind of personality Chris is and how that would determine what happened. You have great points about NK and why you think she wouldn't go as far as to get that involved, helping him get to the end result that both of them wanted. It doesn't make others mad or frustrated if you present something different to what others believe. I don't think you get mad or frustrated when others present their opinions of what happened either. I think I try not to, but the way you wrote it there is very nice, and that's assuming that everybody is an understanding human being who wants to hear what others have to say so that our mutual opinions, when combined, will be greater than either of our individual opinions. So in that world where everyone's like that, sure. And I gotta say, most of the people who left comments were in that group. They were like that. It's just the occasional trolls, or I guess now we would call them bots, whether they're an actual bot that was created by a computer or a human that thinks like a bot. It's they are not trying to understand. And that's who I was expecting to lose when I made that video, where I was just going to take a side on whether or not the mistress was involved. I figured I would lose a lot more of the people who were unwilling to see anyone else's opinion, didn't want to have their mind made up, and they just wanted to find people who would agree with them rather than understand it better. And to my surprise, not as many people as I expected. There were a greater percentage of people are trying to find a mutual understanding where we can all learn more together than just any of us having our mind made up and we have to be the king of the universe that knows everything. So thanks for saying that long name with a lot of letters that ends with both disgusting. It's a good comment. Next up, Manifold Origin said, thanks for dissecting his words. He is still the one talking. The non-interest in the, quote, outer world, unquote, is so distressing. Non-interest in the outer world is so distressing. I think you mean the way it doesn't happen in this. This comment is for the review of the interrogation. And he kind of is really, really keen to have everyone think highly of him. And it's more in the prison interview that happened a few months after the interrogation, where he starts saying, it doesn't matter to me what other people think, because he kind of had to just for self-preservation. Doesn't matter to him what other people think. But I think I kind of also know what you mean in the interrogation as well, where his non-interest in the outer world is kind of thinking like the way he looks at everything as if it's all just a movie and he can change the channel anytime he wants, which I think is a comparison that I made in the review itself. So maybe that's the non-interest you're referring to. But thank you for the comment, Manifold Origin. Next up, Christine Candelier said, I guess referring to the mistress, I don't think that she was unmarried by choice. Married men seem to be her hunting grounds because her ego needs to be the first, the most. She needs and loves competition, as narcissistic as CW. That's a great point there, Christine Candelier. Because that actually, maybe that's where you got it. It came up in some of the interactions, like the messages between CW and NK. There were things about the first time you blah, 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 the first time we blah, blah, blah. We have many firsts together, Nikki, and I want to keep having them with you. And the thing about she wanted to have his first son. So it's an excellent point. I think you read into that correctly. So then you continued on that the mistress is the female version of CW. She is toxic, and any married man with a piece of brain took what he needs and then got away. Yeah, so instead of just finding a good match, which is kind of like carrying over to the theme of the last comment, she's kind of like the bots in that instead of just finding a good match for herself so that their mutual relationship can bring both of them up, she needs to find a married man and become more important to him than his wife so that she can win in her mind. In her mind, that's a victory, even though it's a loss because you're basically cheating. Well, we call it cheating. So cheating to win is not winning. That's the other member of this competition thinks you're playing by a certain set of rules, and then you just betray the rules to get the unfair advantage on them. That's not proving that you're better. That's cheating to get in a win that only counts in your own mind because no one else sees that as a win. But anyway, continuing on with this comment. Brian took but then got away. Too bossy, he said. She is the first woman I met like that. She wanted to give me my first son. She said, we have a lot in common. What kind of common? Macros, workout, and lust? It is very thin to build a lasting relationship. Okay, that was a little confusingly written, but you're basically saying that their short affair between CW and NK was built on superficial things, and it wouldn't have lasted. He was the perfect Muppet for her. She took 30 in early July. You mean turned 30? And now it was time for her to get married before becoming an old maid? You mean becoming an old maid? Time to buy a status of perfect young woman with a good job. A nice home and a nice little husband on a leash. A nice married man who leaves his beautiful family. His perfect life for a more formidable woman. But she's not a more formidable woman. I know you're just speaking there like in terms of, you're speaking from the point of view of the mistress and what she wants and how it's delusional. And I'm just pointing out the literal part of that. The literal interpretation is that she was not actually more formidable. She was less formidable than Shanann. The thing about Shanann was she was too formidable. That little baby boy Chris couldn't handle it. He didn't have the guts or the brains to stand up to her and communicate to her what he wanted, and he didn't have the ability, much like a bot, he didn't have the ability to reach a mutual understanding, so he had to stay divided, and just he's on his side and she's on her side. And then the only way, much like any murderer that murders for a completely unnecessary reason, an innocent victim, this was a victory in his mind to murder her. That's how he put himself above her when, as I've already stated before, that actually puts you below the victim when you attack an innocent victim who doesn't know it's coming because you can't compete with them in any other way. So in your mind, that's getting the upper hand on them when it's actually forever putting your victim above you. You will never be, no matter what you do for the rest of your life, anywhere near the status of the victim once you murder them. But anyway, continuing on with this comment. So yeah, the reason you were pointing that out, Christine Candelier, was you were saying that she wanted to be more formidable than Shanann by stealing Shanann's man, CW. That was her goal, as you say. No matter how long this union was lasting, she had to get this from a married man. Right, that's why I think I pointed out how she was done with him, because she pretty much had determined that she won before Chris had committed the crimes, and she was losing interest in Chris, and was probably getting ready to dump him. And I think bringing Jim over that day, her friend Jim, I think that was a final thing to either get rid of, like make CW jealous or get rid of him. Even though I'm sure she was presenting it to him as, oh, it's just a friend, nothing's gonna happen. And Chris was thinking, oh, I got to do something before Jim gets there. I got to win. So the competition you mentioned, he was doing that he had to win over Jim, the old friend from the mistress's past. All right, let me just re-get to where I was. And if his wife was pregnant, it's icing on the cake, the bonus. Did she put the poison in his insane and weak brain? I don't know, but the result was horrific and above her expectations. Horrific and exhilarating. She barely conceals her excitement during her first interview. Yeah, we can't see her like a little girl playing with a hose. It would be the clearance of her perverse intentions. Okay, so at the end there, you kind of said that my image is that she's like a little girl playing with a hose. What I said in the review, like playing with the garden hose and then spraying everything and then leaving the water running and then saying, what? I didn't do anything. I probably said it better in the review. I can't remember the exact wording now. But anyway, what you're saying is her intentions were too evil in order to see her as a little girl who didn't know what she was doing. You think it was more calculated, which I wouldn't argue with that. Yeah, I remember her. She seemed the same way I just said Chris was earlier. How she's like, it's like she's watching a movie unfold. In that first police interview, she was giddy, revealing details, like the one part where she said, "I definitely found out a lot more about their finances when I read the paper." It's like it's like she's gossiping about it to her friends at work about people she doesn't know when she was directly related to this murder of three people. And I think she actually understood how that came off, or somebody told her. Well, I don't know if any of them were made public yet by the time she had her next interview, but it seemed like in the next interview she was trying to be in the next interview she was trying to be more of like the remorseful type. But thanks for the comment there, Christine Candelet. Next up, Divine Within Us said, thank you for your insightful breakdown. Chris is absolutely despicable. Hard to argue. It makes me ill to listen to NK's shrieking voice. Her body language is so slutty. I hate having to put it that way, but that's the truth. Who had the video that broke down? It's been so long since I went through everyone's coverage of it. Someone had a video that broke down her body language in the interview where she was like, what happened? She was handing her phone across the table to the police detective, and she like touched his hand while doing it, and the detective was actually like nervous and creeped out by it, so he kind of like he pulled it away like he was afraid a snake was going to bite him. And like her mannerisms were like, oh, I'm just a girl, I don't know what I'm doing, when they were asking her for evidence. So yeah, I understand you didn't say it in the classiest way, but you also said it 100% accurately. So thanks for the comment. Next up, Lee McGrish said, patiently waiting for installment number 12. I hope it was worth it, Lee McGrish. Then we have a couple from P.S. Crampton. Excuse me. The first one says, narcissistic individuals, beware. When all this was happening, I remember narcissism awareness was at such a high level. Everyone was talking about it, whether they were professional or not, including me, to the point where every time a narcissist would be described, I would hear them just describing me. And I think I kind of realized everyone is narcissistic. It's, a spectrum. everyone's on the spectrum somewhere, because you're the most important component to keeping your existence going. So you have to be at least a tiny bit narcissistic in order to continue your existence. And if you're caring for others, doing things for others, you have to be a little bit narcissistic in order to keep yourself in good enough shape to continue doing that. If you just starve yourself to let your kids eat, what good are you going to be after you're starved to death? You're not going to be able to take care of them after that, right? So you have to be a little bit narcissistic and eat some of that food for yourself. But maybe that kind of stuff doesn't fall under the DS5. I think we're up to DS5. It was DS4 when I was in college. One more from P.S. Crampton, then we're going to have to close this up. It's a little more serious. R.E. Tammy and male detective finding him out, figuring him out meant really the end of his freedom, not just his life. Well, I'm not really sure what you meant by that, P.S. Crampton. Meant the end of his life, not just his freedom. Well, why don't I leave that for everyone else to decide? Thank you for watching. This has been part 28, and maybe I'll see you in part 29. So